Hey there, devotioners and friends. How are you doing today? I hope that you are doing wonderful. I was asked to expound on something that I said, and I thought about how to respond, whether or not I should do it formally or do it informally, kind of like how I'm doing right now, where I'm driving. My mind is at ease. I'm on my way home, and I figured, why not share it like this? So, my seatbelt's on, I'm obeying the road signs and all that stuff. So, I made a statement in one of my devotions about a little bit of my life, about my surrender to God, and a prayer that I prayed a couple years ago, and one that I continue to pray. So what I prayed was, I wanted God to navigate my life and to put me in the place where I am supposed to be. So the place that he sees in the theater of his mind that he has for me, where I should have been, but because of circumstances and situations, some of them my fault, and some of them things beyond my control, I wanted him to place me where I'm supposed to be, because what I didn't want to continue to happen was for me to walk aimlessly in the earth without doing what I was purposed to do. And so I prayed that prayer, and I said, God, today, am I where I am supposed to be? Am I doing what you foreordained me to be? Am I doing what you've called me to be? And God, if I am not where I'm supposed to be, Lord, align me with your divine will and purpose for my life. And I prayed that prayer, and I was sincere about it. But what I didn't recognize was that prayer came with a cost. That there was no magic wand that was waved to erase my past, to erase my mistakes, to erase my failures, or even the progress that I made. What I didn't realize was that God was not going to put me back to age 20, or age 18. He wasn't going to make me a baby again. What I saw God started doing was he started to rework my life with all the elements that were in it, with my mistakes, with my progress, my proclivities, everything. He started to edit, right? He started to rewire my thinking. He just started to do a work. He did not erase anything. He started to realign me, my mind, my will, my desire to his. And some of the insatiable desires that I had, some of the goals that I had written out, and I said, I want to accomplish this, and I want to accomplish this, and I want to do that, and I want to go here, and I want to go there. And all the things that I had, none of them were necessarily bad, right? Those dreams were legit. They could pass. But I realized that those insatiable desires began to wane, began to dissolve over time. And so the more I surrender, and let me tell you, surrendering is not easy. Surrendering is hard, because when you have something that you have been fixated on, it's hard to let go. It's hard to release it. But if I was sincere with my prayer, and I was, surrendering had to become a part of what I did. I had to release those desires. I had to lay them down. And many times I cried. And many times I was saying, God, what is really wrong with having this? I don't see anything bad about this. I reasoned it out with God. I had a pity party. I said, God, I don't see the big deal with not having this. And I could almost hear God saying, do you want my will or do you want yours? Decide, make a decision, make a choice. And then I had to finally acquiesce, and I said, God, nevertheless, you think that garden experience that Jesus had to get to Golgotha was easy? To lay his life down on a cross, that wasn't easy. It was so intense. The Bible said, drops of blood came through his sweat gland. That was intense. Surrendering is not easy. I mean, I know my favorite song of all time is I Surrender All. I mean, every time I hear that song, a tear falls out of my eyes, and I feel the words. I feel the lyrics of that song. Surrendering is not easy, but it's necessary to walk in the will and purpose of God. And so I found again where there's certain things that I just had to release. I just had to let go and say, God, okay, not my will, but thine will be done. Whatever it is that you saw, whatever it is that you know that I should be doing, align me. And I saw where, my pursuits, some of them intensified, academically, professionally, socially, all the alleys that you could think of, mentally. There were just shifts that started to happen over time. With each surrender, there was a shift. With each letting go, there was a shift. And the more I released was the deeper God went. The more I let go was the higher that God took me. And I realized, whoa, wait a minute, right? And not only was the surrender hard, was the sacrifice, because remember I said my life, for example, as a mother did not change. It did not change. I still had my children to attend to. I still had to nurture. I still had to raise them in the admonition of God. I still had to make sure that they were fed and clothed. And I had to make sure that I was fulfilling my motherly duties, for example. Those things did not change. Didn't change. And so there was a level of sacrifice, that I had to do in order to align. Are you hearing me? I just had to sacrifice certain things. But what I experienced was the grace of God. What I experienced was the mercy of God. It wasn't easy to do, but God gave me grace to do it. And it did not eliminate many times the mother guilt. If anything, it intensified it, because there are moments when, I couldn't be there at that particular time, right? And I had to make up in other ways. You see what I'm saying? I had to do other things to make up, because we're talking about, I want to walk in divine order. I want to walk in divine purpose. I want to walk in God's divine will. It comes with surrender and it comes with sacrifice. And it wasn't easy, and it's still not easy, right? Over time, though, throughout the years since I prayed that prayer, certain things started to, become a little bit smoother. I mean, miraculously, my kids understood, and God gave me a strategy of how to handle certain aspect of their rearing, their growing up. I mean, I'm telling you, I couldn't devise it on my own, but God gave me a strategy, gave me a plan. For example, during school, he would say to me, gather them all around the dining table. And while you're doing your work, they're doing their work. Make this a collaborative thing. Make this a together thing. You're there. You're still engaging in conversation. You're still working with them. You're still doing. And I couldn't have devised it. I couldn't have come up with it on my own. God gave me the tools. And God provided support, surrender, sacrifice, support. I'm telling you, when you allow God to do it, when you allow God to work it out, God will go to all measures to put you where you belong. So there is the surrender, the sacrifice, and the support. I'm telling you. God is so awesome. And I find as well that when God starts to put you on the path that you're supposed to go on, right? Remember, he's reworking things. So the path is not paved. The terrain is not smooth. All right? It's not. And you just have to trust the process. More importantly, you have to trust the God that's in the process. That right there is a stickler. You have to trust God and know that the work that he started, he will complete. So sometimes on the journey, you find yourself in the tension of realignment, because now there are certain proclivities now that God is trying to work out of you, your mentality, your perception. I mean, all these different things, the baggages, the hurt, the pain, and they're real. Oh Lord. And so he's starting to really apply some pressure on certain areas, and is causing you to see what's really important and what you are willing to hold on to, right? What are you willing to abandon to get to this level? What comfort zone are you willing to walk out of? Because you're going to have to walk in some discomfort. You're going to feel what I call it, the thorn. The thorn. It's a thorn sometimes that is placed in you. Oh my God. It's to buffet you on the journey. Not easy. And you find yourself now, all right, am I going to stay in the boat of comfort? Or I'm going to walk on this water? Because nobody has walked on water before. I am walking in a uncharted territory, right? Nobody has ever done this before where I am from. This is new for me. And so to walk out of the boat, right, opens you up for criticism, opens you up to potential failure. I mean, sinking, right? It opens you up to so many negative emotions. What are people going to think? What are they going to say? How are they going to act toward me now? Because they're even I can see some transformation in me, but everybody is going to think like, who do you think you are? You know, this is what you're supposed to be doing because this is what everybody else is doing. How dare you come out of this boat of comfort? Who do you really heard from God? God is really working in your life, huh? You really hear God say to come? Huh? And if he did say come, why are you the one walking out on the water? Huh? I don't expect you to walk out. Come back here. And so you feel this threat. You hear voices in your head and they're loud. And you have to make a decision. Am I going to walk the unbeaten path? Am I going to leave trails for others to follow? Am I going to leave footprints for others to follow? Am I going to leave a template? Am I going to leave a design for others to use? You have to make a decision. And let me tell you, some people are not going to like it. And consequently, you may not be liked as a result of it. You may be frowned upon. I mean, all kinds of things will start to happen to you because sometimes it's just you. Some people talk about change. Some people talk about transformation, but they want it to be their clique, their people. Some people don't want you to experience the goodness of God. They don't say it out loud, but their posture, their lack of encouragement says it all. And you don't have to go searching for what they really think or feel. You can see it in their disposition. But you have to make a conscious decision to say, you know what? I am going to walk on that water. I'm getting out of that boat. I am going toward where I heard that voice. I'm walking on there. And you have to trust. This gave me chills. Because I talked about it a long time ago in one of the devotions. That you have to know who your anchor is. You have to know what's holding you up. You have to trust that word. Because not because you got a word means that the external circumstances are not going to put on a show. Oh my God. The storm didn't stop. The sea didn't cease from being boisterous. Those in the boat didn't stop talking and yelling at you and tell you to come back. But you know what you heard. And that's what you're walking toward. And the time that Peter began to sink is when he started to listen to his inner voice. And that inner critic sometimes, man, The inner critic sometimes is a crippling factor, because all of a sudden you start to tell yourself, I can't do this. They may be right, others are better than me, others are more qualified than me, and you start to talk yourself out of it. And he started to sink. But what I love about Jesus and what you're gonna find on the journey, that it's not perfect. It's progress. It's progress over perfection, any day, every day, all day. And Jesus lifted him up. Yeah, and Jesus scolded him and said, why did you choose not to believe? You've come this far. You have a track record. You came this far, and you chose to believe a lie. Come on, I'm with you. But I told this, I've said this, I'd rather be scolded on the water by Jesus in a sink state than to stay in the boat of comfort and ease and complacency and procrastination. I'll rather that any day. I'll rather try and fail than not try at all. It's my mindset. It is the way that I've thought since I was a child, and I'm reminiscing on how I was as a child. And it's now that I am in this state, I'm realizing that God was working something out a long time. You know the song, all my life God has been faithful. And the truth is, we think that God has been with us from the time we got saved, and he started to know. He was with us from before the foundation of the earth, from the time before you entered your mother's womb. God knew you. He fashioned you, shaped you. I mean, man, he put something inside of you. But I always had a mind. I always had that mind. I always had that mind. I'd rather fail. And I can't tell you how many times I have failed. Oh my God. I have failed too many times. Sometimes I said the wrong thing. I didn't mean it. One thing, I don't mean harm. And that's what I've reconciled with some situations. I never mean harm. But I've learned over time, when God started to work on me and started to put me on the wheel, that sometimes watch how you say that, you say the truth, and refine it, and it's never without love. And that's something I had to reconcile with. And said, I never mean harm, and it was never meant to hurt, and it was never no. And he talked to me about timing. And I'm telling you, man, God has been so good that now I find people literally seek me out, literally from different places, seek me out for truth. And now, with the reworking and the rewiring of God, I'm able to administer it in a palpable way and bring about change and transformation in the lives of others. Can you believe it? I mean, I think God is so funny. I think he's hilarious. I think he used a thing that I used to not do so good at and still use it as a part of the call. I said, God, you're so funny. But these are some of the things I'm talking about. I want to be honest with you. I want to be open with you and just, share with you. Yeah. He has worked out many of the kinks. Right? So when I pray that prayer, and I still do, even many mornings, and I've said it, I make it like a prayer, a perpetual prayer And I said, God, I mean every day, because sometimes I don't say it, but I said, God, align me. What did you see from me today? What did you see me doing today? When you decided to wake me up, what did you see me doing? And I'm telling you the God in heaven truth. There are many mornings that I had a plan, and all of a sudden I'm going another route. I could just feel God go drive there. Go there. Go to the store. I don't need to go to the store. Just go. He'll put like a want inside of me. He said, go, drive down that way. I can't tell you how many people I have collided with who were in need, who wanted a word of encouragement, a word of prayer, or something else. I won't disclose here. And I happened to stumble upon them. But it was by divine design. Because at that time they needed somebody. They needed help. Many times. And I didn't end up being late. I didn't miss anything that I was supposed to do, because God orchestrated it. I can't tell you how many times that has happened to me. I find myself there, and then I may end up witnessing to somebody. It blows my mind when I wake up like that. And every day I have that anticipation inside of me. I have my ears attuned, my spirit alerted. And truthfully, sometimes I can't bother. Honestly, I tell you the truth, sometimes I can't bother. But I've just always surrender and sacrifice. Just always do. I say, okay, God, fine. Sometimes it's like that. So, God, fine. You know, because at the end of the day, I want him to be pleased with me. Yeah. So I find myself, you know, some of the detours that I had in life were by God's design as well. God said, no, come off of that path, and I'm going to put you over here. And this is where I need you to be for this season. That door that I shut, you might see it as a failure. But it wasn't failure. I close that door, because if I didn't close that door, you wouldn't be in your purpose. And so I shut it, and I'm telling you that I shut it. So move on, carry on. And this is where you're supposed to be right now, and this is where you're going to make the impact until I tell you otherwise. And again, that's it. So it's not perfect, it's progress. It's discipline, it's obedience. And obedience comes at a cost. It really does, because it's not convenient. But at the end of the day, you have to decide, who am I going to please? Am I going to please myself, or I'm going to please God? And I'll tell you, I had to pay for disobedience many times. And so when you learn, and you think that God gotta play with you, you think that God play with you, not play with you. And I said, I don't like how it feels. So I tend to err on the side of obedience, on the side of caution, because I don't like the reprimand. Is he just? Is he merciful? Yes. But there's some things that you just can't delay on. You have to respond. It's timely. Because I've learned that people's lives are at stake. Because sometimes, and it's a burden that I carry when I don't obey, is that person that God sent and say, I'm going to send somebody your way. And they feel that, they feel that intuition. They feel that, they feel that discernment. Yeah, I'm going to get help today. And then I, in my disobedience, said, I can't, but I'm sure. Like, I don't feel like going. Then sometimes that person may not be mature enough, and they may charge God foolishly, and they may mistrust God and say, man, I felt today was gonna be the day. Yes, it was the day. God promises true. His promise is so. But sometimes the people that he places the burden on don't respond. And so it leads to mistrust in others. And I don't want that burden on me. And so I try to respond. Because God can be trusted, and God is true, and his word will never return unto him void. Because I've heard, somebody else met the need. Because when God has something to get done. And so that's why I always say, and I've said it many, 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 many times. I said, God, if you want something done, and you cannot find anybody else to do it, you can always count on me. And I mean that with all of my heart. I feel like I get used by default, you know what I mean? Those prayers. And I just feel like, man, God says, all right, I asked so-and-so and they didn't go. You, tag, you're it. Sometimes I feel like that. Sometimes I do feel like that. So when I pray that prayer, it comes with all of this stuff that I'm talking about and more that I can't even go into details about. There's a surrender. There's a sacrifice. Support. Your life doesn't change. Some of the aspects of your life don't change. They work in tandem with what God is doing. It has to work in tandem with what God is doing. And so it requires flexibility. It requires trust. It requires dependability. The scripture, trust in the Lord with all thine heart and lean not to thine own understanding, but in all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your path. That becomes meat. That becomes meat. To hold on to that when the goings get tough and the pressure is being applied and you feel like woo-hoo-hoo, and sometimes the job that you're in is not where God wants you to be, but sometimes some of us are not willing to take the step. Because I remember one situation not too long ago when God rerouted me, right? I was experiencing some things, man. I was experiencing some things at the time that I remember I sat in church. And I said, God, you told me to go. And now, God, look at what I am dealing with. And I said, God, you have to do something. And I said, God, because I remember I prayed a prayer around that time too. And I said, God in heaven. I remember I sat in church. I know exactly where I was, a landmark, a memorial moment. I know where I was. It's in my journal. I said, God, that's not what I meant. This is exactly what I meant. And so God had to teach me how to be specific in my prayers. I said, God, that's not what I meant. And I said, God, you have to make a way because this is not going to work out long term. I said, come on, Jesus. I remember, right? God will allow you to go into some valleys to experience some things, man. Because how can you say it's in the valley that he restores your soul unless you go down there, unless you experience some hard times, man? Man, it was a life defining moment for me. One of those life defining moments, and I had many of them, but it was one of the most life defining moments in my walk with God. And I saw God responded. I saw him responded. And the thing that there was other parts of it that I was a little bit terrified about, because there were other people that was attached to, that part of my story, and I was wondering how they were going to be impacted. And God worked it all out. Talk about support. God worked it all out, and today we're fine, and we're gonna work in different capacities. The same people, we're working in different capacities. I'm telling you, God is good. So let me shut this off. Let me shut this off. So the person asked, and I'm telling majority of you today, for those who are going to listen, that this is what it means. This is what that prayer has meant for me. That's what it's what's carrying me through even today, right now. And like I said, I don't want to sugarcoat anything. I don't want to put no sprinkles on nothing. I know cherry on top. I know chocolate, nothing to make this look like, this is easy. It's not, it may look, and you may look and you may say, no, it's maybe just how I posture myself. But I can tell you, I have internal battles. It's hard sometimes. It's hard. It's hard. But I choose my heart. I've just decided that I'm gonna make it somehow. The song, I promise the Lord that I will make it somehow. And obviously I can't make it without him. So my dependence, my reliance, my devotion, it's in him. I take that scripture literally. It's in him that I live, move, and have my being. I don't become, I don't evolve, I don't transform. My life is not a metamorphosis except God. Except God. Except God. I don't do this without him. And when I find myself in a pickle sometimes, emotional pickle, sometimes I'm very sensitive, and I find myself in the tension, I know where to go. I know where to go. And it's in those places that I cry the most, and I feel the most, and I just tell God how I feel without any filters. And I just tell him. Sometimes I tell him I'm disappointed, and sometimes I tell him, God, this really hurts, man, and this is painful. Like, I'm one person. I can't take this. This is too much. And I will lay out everything. Sometimes I recall back to mine. I said, God, look at, I count some. I said, God, seriously, it's me. Your servant, your girl. I mean, I say all kinds of stuff, but you know what? I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about, I'm pouring out my soul to God. I am, and David did it. David poured out his soul to God. He cried to God. He told God about his enemies. I mean, at one point he wanted them to die, and he wanted God to acquiesce to his request. God was like, no, dude. I get real with him. I tell him, and I have no shame in my game. I tell him, it's hard, God. I'm really disappointed. I'm sad about this, and I don't know. And so it's just what it is. It's my intimacy. It's just what I do. So that's the prayer that I prayed. And again, it's not easy. It's not easy, but it's worth it. You know, CeCe went and sing that song. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. And so what I have to go through sometimes, it looks massive, you know, but when I look through the lens of God, when I take off the lens of worry and I put on the lens of worship, I see that this is light. It's light in comparison to what God is going to do on the other side, where lives are going to be changed and lives are going to be positively impacted. It's light, you know. But when I put on the lens of worry and frustration and fear and doubt, all I can see is myself and what I'm feeling and what I'm going through, you know. And there's room for that at times. But when I put on the lens of worship and I make God big in my eyes, and I magnify him, in other words, you know, when I see him for who he is, then I know, I'm assured that, you know what, better days are ahead. Hope is ahead. And that's what I cling to. That's what keeps me motivated to this transformative process. So I hope that helps, and hope that encourages you. Hope that, you know, if you're ready, that you will pray that prayer too. But just know that some things are gonna come crashing down like a domino. You hit one and then all of it comes crashing down. But it's all for a reset. It's all for growth. You know, it's all for rebirth. And God is able to repurpose all the things that you've gone through and bring about a glory out of it. And you just have to just be willing. And when the goings get tough, you remember there's a side of victory. There's a side of victory that I'm trying to get to. And this is just a process, that it won't always be like this. It won't always be like this. And, you know, you're going to face some of the people that you've lived life with in the past, and you're going to see them, and things may not be the same. And, you know, those are some of the tensions that you still have to live in, you know, because again, there's no magic wand. She's gone. He's gone. They're gone. No, it doesn't work like that. God is not a genie, you know. He's real. That he's a real God. So you're gonna have to face and see some of the mistakes that you've made. You're gonna have to live with some of the mistakes that you made. Abraham did, you know. He had to live with Ishmael, his promise and his mistake, you know. Some things again is not just gonna disappear. And these are just some of the things that I want to teach people in Christendom about. Like, Christianity is a Christ-led, it's relational. And these are some of the things that we need to dissect in Scripture. You're gonna see some of your failures, but your goal is to learn from them. You're gonna see some of those things, You know, you can't wish people dead. You can't do that, you know. Um, no, you have to live with some of those things, but is the lens through which you're looking through that will make the difference. All right. So hope that helps, and you know, God is gonna help you. You know, you may have made some poor financial decisions. You may have, you know, but guess what? God will help you work through them, and you have to sacrifice. You're gonna have to sacrifice some things. You know, you can't do things like you normally would, and these are some of the things that I'm talking about. When you go, when you pray and ask God to align you, you don't just. I mean, can He work a miracle? Oh yes, but sometimes, in order for you to appreciate the transformation, right? In order for you to sustain and maintain certain things, in order for you to even have a testimony, it's in God's best interest to not just wipe it away altogether. He uses it for His glory. Makes your testimony more spicy, more interesting, you know, more comprehensive. God knows what He's doing in you. He knows what He's doing in me. He knows what He's doing in every person. For some people, He will just wipe it away. Because He knows you. He knows us. It's He who have made us and not we ourselves, right? So He knows us. So that's why we cannot compare ourselves one to the other. You have to just let God do His thing in you. All right. So again, hope that helps. And but just know, I'll leave you with this hope. Just know that it is going to work out for your good in the end. And if there's anything that you should give God praise about, is that you know what, in spite of it, it's gonna work out in my favor. So may God bless you, and may God keep you, and may God cause His great face to shine upon you. May God give you His peace, the peace that passes all understanding. I pray even now that you say, yes, Lord. Yes, Lord, to your will and to your way. God bless you. Talk soon.